So anything exciting you changed since last week?
Yeah, since last week, actually, the thing I changed is more in the nutrition from the nutrition episode. I started tracking my food using Chronometer. I haven't done it for a while, but I actually
Is
found
it one
out
of
that
those like AI apps or
no, it's not an AI one. It's actually like, I guess, very mechanical, and you can scan the barcode of what you're eating, and it has this like insane data. Like everything I've scanned has come up basically. But yeah, I found out that I'm having like way too much fat. I think it's actually quite common on a vegan diet to like over-index on fat. So that's something I'm already changing in my diet and trying to reduce the amount of fat I have. How about you?
how do you get more carbs? Is it more bread?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like more like rice, bread, like a bit more plainer food. I think when you start adding stuff, you just randomly get like tons of fat, and especially like these like vegan snack foods and stuff like this. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I think I did something on the risk side, and as I already said last time, I think the riskiest thing I do is ride my bicycle pretty reckless in Amsterdam. And I just stopped being reckless, and it feels so much better. You're also like less stressed. It's like you, you just like ride with everybody else. I also ordered a helmet, but it didn't arrive yet, so I'll report on that next time.
amazing.
All right. Welcome back to Euzoia, the weekly podcast where Cam and I are looking at a topic that makes a good life. And today we are starting with a 5-week series on the mind. The last 5 weeks were the body. Definitely check them out if you didn't have time. And in a way, the mind is, I guess, almost the most important thing, or at least it's where everything comes together, right? Like what you see in the world, how you experience the world at the end is what your brain or your mind makes of what it sees in the world, right? It's a construction, and you have some influence at least how your mind works, how you interpret everything, and how you react to certain stimuli that come at you from the outside. So working on that, working on your mind, for sure has a massive impact on your well-being. In a way, your well-being is constructed at the end of the day by your brain, right? So it kind of makes sense that something you do there could probably have an influence on your well-being. And we decided to structure the series into 5 parts. And the first one that we're going to talk about now is awareness and acceptance. And that's probably because if you're not even aware of what's going on, then it's like hard to kind of build on top of this. And within this side of awareness, I guess there's like 3, 4 things you can do. And the first one is to just be aware, right? Like there's you can sit down and just do nothing, kind of see what comes up, and kind of develop a practice like this. This is like the classic meditation. Maybe you try to focus on your breath whenever your thoughts go loop somewhere else. But the whole point is just to have like a broad awareness, some curiosity, some non-judgmental attitude, and just see kind of what's happening. Another practice that I think a lot of people are doing is instead of kind of noticing and seeing it float away again, is to actually name it. It's like, what is it that comes up now? It's like, what emotion am I feeling now? And by putting a name on it, you make it more concrete and less dangerous, maybe, or less. It makes it easier to work with. Another thing that a lot of people do is just journaling, writing. There, you can either take the approach of like these morning pages where people just wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is write, stream of consciousness. And again, by having this like non-judgmental attitude, just like writing whatever comes to mind, you almost see what's happening in your subconscious, what's moving you. And then maybe one more thing I'll talk about is that you can also just pause. And that is more, maybe you need an app for this or note it, post it or something else, where it basically helps you to every now and then in your daily life, take a pause and see like, okay, like how am I feeling right now? Really? Like what's actually going on right now? What's happening in my brain? I I did this a few years ago when I wasn't feeling too well, and I was like, maybe I should just become more aware of my emotions and what I'm actually feeling instead of like just blindly like doing as they were telling me. And I gave this app how to feel or how we feel. I don't fully remember a try, and that had this thing where it was just trigger you like 3, 4 times a day. It's like, okay, now sit down and select like of these like 40, 50 variations of emotions that you have. Like, how are you feeling right now? And at least, yeah, this in combination with some meditation practice and some journaling helped me over time to just not perfectly be aware, but like have some awareness, I guess.
hmm hmm Yeah, it's really interesting on the emotions one. I think I remember seeing this wheel where it has like all the different types of emotions broken down, and there's like so many of them, and the intersection of like language and emotions. I think there's some evidence that like if you actually have a word to describe a certain feeling, it's like you can feel it more or you can evoke that emotion. So there's maybe something interesting around that. Yeah, the next one is about accepting yourself. So I think often, we, especially in the West, I think it's quite a Western thing where we have a more individualistic society. We kind of believe that we can do anything, the world's our oyster. And then when we can't kind of get what we want, we blame ourselves or feel like more negative emotions and keep trying to push ourselves or try and do more. And so sometimes, you just have to accept your limitations or that things aren't going to work out, or maybe that bad things happen. So the first thing is kind of allowing this, acknowledging reality as it is. You can't change the facts, accepting your current situation without fighting it. I think there's something about surrendering here. I think maybe men often find this hard to do as well. And then like only focusing on what you actually can do or can change. And then the next one is exploration. So once you've accepted it, it's happened because of a chain of events, you can still explore that chain and think about what you can do in the future. And generally, it's best to not be judgmental about it, more so be curious, like, what was it that led to this? Or like, how did it happen? I think even for me, sometimes I can be a bit avoidant and not want to look at things, but I think kind of exploring it can be really helpful as well. And then the next one, prayer. I think this is a very interesting one. I've not done that much prayer myself, but I think there kind of have been a few times where I'm like, oh, like you kind of want to appeal to something bigger to yourself, bigger than yourself. And there are some like non-religious ones. I think Stoicism, that's something I look into as well. But I think part of prayer is like kind of accepting your limitations and that there's like bigger things out there. Like I think you could even think about the universe, right? It's way bigger than just you as an individual. And then finally, I think release. This is a really cool one. I like this one. You could write down something and burn it. You could come up with your own rituals. I think it's kind of nice to have it like personalized and like, something to do with the thing you're trying to release. Is there some sort of metaphor you can make out of it? Throwing a paper plane out the window. I don't know. There's lots of different ideas there. But yeah, these are just some ways that you can be more accepting or like reflect and try and let things go a little bit as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think all of these are like, it's like much easier said than done to just
Yes.
accept how things are. And yeah, but like having this practice of just like quietly allowing this and just exploring a little bit, you don't have to face all the difficult things all at once. But yeah, it's like, it is what it is, no? You can change it. And I love stoicism there, where it's like, yeah, you should really only focus on what you can change. And you are a tiny little piece of flesh in this massive, crazy universe. Like, it's a bit presumptuous to assume you can like do all kinds of things. No, it's more like, okay, like I'm here. What can I now do?
Yeah.
I think what you also talked about maybe being a bit avoidant, that also I can totally recognize that with me. And maybe that's something that like leads to the next topic. And that's like, okay, if you are aware of what's happening and look at it non-judgmentally, accept it, then you can start to investigate, right? Like okay, like what is it? What is it trying to tell me? And usually when I hear investigation, I'm like, okay, like I'm good at this. That's my brain. I'll just like analyze the shit out of this. And that's usually not what you want to do. I think, especially because we analyze all the time already anyway. Probably you've done this already. Of course, you can like try to journal a little bit about what this might tell you. But usually when I feel stuck, what helps me more is to kind of go into my body and be like, okay, like how does it feel? Like, where do I actually feel something right now? And this can help because it's at least grounded somewhat in reality, and maybe it reminds you of other things. And then one framework I also found very helpful is that of like assigning every emotion a meaning. For example, anger means like a boundary might have been crossed, or you have been blocked in achieving some kind of goal. You have a need for justice or for safety. Fear might mean you're not facing something. You need to face something, and you have a maybe need for safety and predictability. And for me, for sure, like one of the key emotions I feel very often is like anxiety. And that is around like not facing something, or like knowing there's something somewhere, but just not allowing it, and being aware of this and be like, okay, like let me just look at it and do something about it. And often that just and it also vanishes. There's a bunch of other emotions. I'm not gonna like talk about all of them. But for sure, like if you want to go deeper, look up the framework, read our blog post about it, and as always, like see what works for you. A lot of ideas for how you can become aware of something, a lot of ideas how to accept something, a lot of ideas of like how to investigate what you're seeing. And if you're like me, then probably this felt like very overwhelming. It's like I can't now like start meditating and start looking at my emotions and this and that and that. And I think it's because it's your mind, a very broad topic. Right? Like one thing, if you just want to give it a try, there is something called a RAIN meditation, and that stands for recognize, accept, investigate, nurture. That tries to combine these things, and that's just on Spotify. It takes like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. First time I tried it, it did exactly nothing for me. So it's as always, right? Like try different things, see what works for you. All of these things that we just mentioned, they're used in meditation, in CBT, in DBT, in like different therapies. They call it kind of all recombine them in different ways, but the core underlying things are often this like non-judgmental awareness, acceptance, and then the other topics we're going to cover in the next posts. Yeah, I mean, as with everything, you can try to do this by yourself. It's much more fun if you do this together with others, and if you get a coach, and a coach for the mind is called a therapist, then you can progress even further. So for sure, that's also something considering.
Yeah. And I think maybe the meta thing with this is to actually just try something and like start the journey of doing this, especially if you've never done it before. I think it's like quite high leverage to at least do one intervention or try a few and like start. I think where there can be problems is if you have like almost like an accumulated buildup of, I don't know, denial or anxiety or whatever, and just you have no outlet for it. And so I think just doing something is worth trying and quite high leverage.
I did a meditation retreat once, well, like one of these 10-day things.
Oh my God.
And I found it super interesting that like the longer it would last, the more my brain would go to the unprocessed stuff more in the past. Like initially I would like in the first 2-3 days, I would like process the last like days and weeks, right? And then day 5 or 6, I was like, and a few months ago or a year ago, or like super old memories would come up just because like you're like slowly processing the backlog. It's useful, and just start and see where it leads you. All right, today this was awareness and acceptance. Next week we're gonna cover emotional regulation. So like today was more being aware, and next week it'll be a lot about like what are like active practices you can do in the moment to regulate your mind up and down to an emotional state serves that moment. As always, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, share this episode with a friend, subscribe on Substack. That's where all the blogs are.
Great. See you guys next week.
See you next week.